ways to look at innovation. There's the first way that says, things are pretty good the way things are. But I've got this cool idea. And if we add this cool new thing to the way things are, it would just be that much better. The other way to look at innovation is that things right now are just so-so, but I've got this great idea. And this great idea is so compelling and so good that it's the way things should be. In fact, the present, in light of this new idea, looks broken in light of it. And everything between where we are and where we should be are just problems to be solved. This is the process of innovation. That second way is the better way, but it's the harder way. This is what I think it looks like. So if you were to plot new initiatives or innovations in terms of the energy of the people involved with those things over time, this is where your idea starts, the inception of a new idea. So in our case, my team and I had this idea to serve our community through a local coffee shop we call Greyhouse. And for a while, you get really excited about that idea, right? You get energetic. It's sort of self-fueling process. And it's easy to talk about, it's going to be great. We're going to do best quality coffee and tea we can. It's going to be all natural foods, made from scratch, regional ingredients, right? And you go on and on. Now, that process is easy at this stage, but it's also really important because this is where your idea is really cemented into reality. But look what happens next. Oh man, you mean I have to convince how many people this is a good idea? And I have to raise how much money to get this thing going? And you end up distracted. It ends up complicated, okay? And sometimes unwilling to continue. And you're way down here, okay, in the trough. And this was true for us too. Greyhouse is actually a nonprofit. And every penny it took to start that place, I had to raise that money. In fact, Greyhouse was built by entirely volunteers. 250 of my friends came. We worked 20 hours a day for 6 weeks to get the doors open. And my twins at the time were a month old, okay? So that was a rough time. And I think during that 6 weeks, I probably had about 240 of those volunteers come up to me and say at some point, Jason, are you sure this is a good idea? You sure we should be doing this? This is pretty hard, right? So that's what it's like to be in the trough. But sometimes, if you're lucky, you hang in there, and this is what happens, okay? And your idea comes to being, right? It exists. It's born into the present, okay? And it's self-fueling again. You're energetic again because this thing exists. And this was true of us. Greyhouse has gone on to win some awards and recognition. And in fact, we had more people come visit our place last year than the population of our city. But don't get distracted by that. Please don't let me get distracted by that, okay? What I'm most proud of is we brought in over 50 acts last year to play. We served over 250 outside agencies. There's something deeper about what's going on there at Greyhouse. There's something that we haven't yet quite finished. But take a look at this curve. Notice you spend the vast majority of your time here in the trough, in the valley of your idea, in the desert of your idea. And that's bad news. That's where people quit, right? That's where it's just, this is too hard, this must not be right. But I want to talk today about 2 things you can do to improve this common curve when you're starting new initiatives or working on your innovation. And the first is make the trough a little bit less deep, okay? And I think there's a few ways you can do that. The first of which is just good old creativity, okay? This is looking at problems as possibilities. And it's using creativity throughout the process, not just at the beginning, where it often gets all the credit. The second is employing opportunism. This is having your head up on a swivel, looking around, learning as you go. This is looking for leverage in externalities, okay? This is kind of like the scientist who's trying to make blue stuff. He's trying to make blue stuff, and he accidentally makes red stuff. And he says, maybe I'll just make red stuff, okay? That's being opportunistic. The next is conscientiousness, okay? This is doing what is right, the best you can at every step of the process, no matter where you are, no matter how much it seems like it's working, okay? Hanging in there. And the last is fallibility. Okay, this is baking failure right into the process itself. Failing early so that you can fail often. I think of it as failing forward. Okay, you're trying to climb a mountain, imagine, right? You're trying to get to the top of this mountain, and you just fall flat on your face, okay? But as long as you fall towards the top of the mountain, okay, when you get up, you're at least your body length closer to where you were going, okay? And it's a rough way to go, but you can climb a mountain a body length at a time if you have to, okay? So if you can't remember those 4 big things, remember just these 3 letters, try. Really, I'm just talking about giving it a really good shot through the trough, hanging in there. You can't guarantee that you're going to be successful at the end just because you're trying hard, but you're giving it the best chance possible at success. I like to think of it like building a fire. So they say when you're building a fire that it's hard to know quite where to put the wood, right? It's complicated. There's a lot of variables happening. But they say to think of the fire as hungry, and think of the flames that come up out of it as tongues from hungry mouths. And you just need to put the wood into those hungry mouths, where those tongues are. Now, you never quite know where those tongues are going to come up next, but as long as you put the wood right there in that mouth when you need to, you have the best chance, most efficiently making this blazing fire with hot embers. And Kierkegaard would say it this way, in fact, life is lived forward, but understood in reverse. So I said there was 2 ways to improve this common curve of new initiatives, and the first was to make the trough period less deep. The second is to make the peak a little more high. Get your energy level up before you begin that process. Again, you can't guarantee you're going to be successful just because you've got a lot of energy, okay? But you're giving yourself the best chance at a running start to build some momentum through that necessary trough time. In fact, if you can get your energy level up such that it's the same as it would be if that thing that you picture actually existed in the present and you were that excited about it even now, you have the best chance of making it through. You know, in the example of Greyhouse, you know, we had an idea to serve the community years before we ever thought of actually doing that with coffee. So we spent a long time building our energy, kind of sowing our sense of motivation. So whenever you're talking about getting high energy up before a process begins, you need to talk about motivation. Now, many people have what I would call a have-to form of motivation. Okay, this is where they feel like they have to do things, right? Their boss is telling them they have to do stuff. Their parents are telling them they have to do stuff, okay? And they don't necessarily engage with those things. And it's hard to get really excited, to really motivated to work on something that you feel like you do just because you have to. But there's a deeper, more mature sense of motivation that I would call the want to. The want to, of course, is when you want to do something. You're engaged with it. You care a little bit. It's becoming a little bit of yours, and you choose to do so. And that's pretty good. And a lot of people stop there. But I think there is a deeper still, a better form of motivation that if you're patient, can help you out even more. And that's what I would call this can't not. Okay, the can't not means I can't not work on this thing. I can't sit idle any longer not beginning to try to bring this vision I have into the present. You think about it when you go to bed at night. You think about it when you wake up in the morning. Every time you sit down to work, you find yourself working on the same thing again. You can't get it out of your mind. You can't get it off of your hands, okay? You're starting to bear a genuine burden for this idea. And listen to this, please. I believe that innovation is best born of a genuine burden. So this is the type of client that we look for in our idea accelerator, the can't not type of motivation. In fact, shortly you'll get to hear from Amanda, one of the clients that we've worked with recently, on her can't not motivation for Africa. So I know what you're thinking, Jason, this would be great if we all just got a chance to work on things that we love to work on, right? You know, yeah, it sounds wonderful, but you know, reality is here too, you know? But I would challenge your assumption that it's not worth doing more than you think. Rahendra Sisodia and her colleagues looked at corporations that actually spend money to figure out a way to sow this sense of passion and pride right into the profit of their corporations. And those that did it the very best, they termed firms of endearment, okay? And this is a list of the highest ranking firms of endearment. And there's some heavy hitters up there, right? Toyota, Google, Starbucks. And this is what her team found. Over a 10-year period, these companies outperformed the S&P 500 8-1, returning over 1,000% for their investors. That's incredible. Okay, it's not just a good idea to care about what it is you're working on. It makes sense. So here we are. This is what it looks like often to start things. And here's the modified, maybe, version of that curve. So my question for you guys is, what is your thing, right? What are you working on right now that you really care about? Take time today to sit and listen to the rest of these speakers. There's going to be some really good ones up here today. And be inspired by them. Let yourself be inspired. But then go home tonight and think about what is that thing that you really care that much about. And you'll know when you found it because you won't be able to sit still any longer not working on it. So maybe this curve isn't such a bad deal. Maybe it's not just having to slog through this trough every time I want to start something new. Maybe you could think of this as a launch pad. Maybe you just got to go down so that you can go up. Maybe it's sort of like a ski jump, okay? And you're that skier right there. So I want you to think about that now. I want you to think about being that skier, getting ready to jump in, okay? And you're crouched at the top of the hill, okay? And you've got your big gigantic skis on, right? And you've got your helmet on. And you are looking at your problem, your innovation, kind of in a new, exciting way. And you hear the wind whistling past your ears, and you feel the mist on your face, okay? And you reach down, and you put on your ski goggles. Some of you may have some ski goggles there you can put on. And you're ready to look at your problem, your innovation, your new thing that you care so much about in a new way. And you hear the announcer say, 3, 2, 1, and you're off.